just getting started for a lot of families is the key. Whatever you're doing, whether it's writing a book or starting a business, one day at a time.
Broadcasting from Boston, Massachusetts, you're listening to the Technology Equals Equality podcast.
Welcome back to the Technology Equals Equality podcast. I'm your host, Lori Brooks, and this is episode 70. Today I have the absolute pleasure of welcoming Dr. Stephen Jones to the show. Dr. Jones is an engineer, an accomplished public speaker, an author, community activist, entrepreneur, president of SAJ Publishing, and the Associate Dean of Students at the College of Engineering at Villanova University. Dr. Jones was one of 6 kids growing up in West Philadelphia. His mother cooked for young children while his father held 2 jobs until he was near 70. His parents instilled determination and faith in God as they raised a family. As a teen, Dr. Jones wanted to play football, and in the interim found his passion for community activism. The first of his siblings to attend college, Dr. Jones has spent the past 32 years honoring his parents and the community leaders he looked up to. By continuing their legacy to help youth in his community, Dr. Jones was recently recognized by the Drexel University chapter of the National Society of Black Entrepreneurs with an award in his name for students who achieve academic excellence. Dr. Jones is passionate about helping students and parents in his community and beyond find their road to success. Listen in as Dr. Jones and I chat about community, college, and commitment. Dr. Jones, welcome, and thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you. I'm really excited to be a participant in this program.
And we are super excited to hear about your journey as an entrepreneur, but what we'd love to do is kind of rewind the clock just a little bit. I'd love for you to tell us a story of how it is you saw the future long before you decided to build out the publishing company, writing your books, or, becoming Associate Dean of Students over at Villanova. What did you think life would be like back when you were a child, long before even football? What did you see the future as being like?
Well, for me, I think a really important thing I wanted to do in life was to help my community. So that was like early, so early as 10 years old, and I had different types of activities in the community. And I saw community leaders and what they were doing and their drive to change the lives of other young people, and their drive to change education, their drive to change business opportunities and entrepreneurship early on. And so just having some of those experiences, I think, carried out throughout my education, throughout my various experiences, and having a passion for others to have the opportunities that maybe some of their peers have not had. And so for me, also, I was the first out of 6 children to go to college. That was a whole new experience, and there are many people around me throughout my community who had not gone to college. I really didn't have a lot of people to talk to, and even in my family, I have about 7 uncles and a bunch of aunts that didn't have the experiences. They could tell me what I need to think about, what I need to do as far as applying and going toward college. So it was all brand new.
So it was pretty much a new experience for you, but you did have community leaders and people that you witnessed in the beginning that kind of set an example for you in a manner that allowed for you to recognize what it is you wanted to do. Even if you didn't have the specifics down pat, you kind of had an idea as to where you wanted to take life as a journey as a whole, which was pretty much to assist those that you could see around you really needed help, but maybe weren't doing the things that you personally felt like could have been accomplished.
Yeah, that's very true. And Philadelphia is a pretty big city. You could go from section to section. A lot of the political leaders and that were involved back then understood that the communities would stay still unless they had a bigger vision. I think I adopted that the community won't advance if we don't have a bigger vision than what we see every day. And for me, also, was getting outside and going to visit colleges early on just to get an idea of what it was all about. So I think that helped me as well.
Definitely. Just making or taking those steps or taking the initiative yourself to kind of learn a little bit more about those things or those areas where you did have the curiosity, and felt like it would be a good idea that would help you in the future, to kind of gain further knowledge on what school was all about in terms of higher education.
And there are a lot of, I won't say, they has the second largest number of colleges in the whole country within our region. So literally, you could see it, and it was there, and you would maybe walk through the campus, or you would drive by the campuses. But to have the vision that you could be there was a different story, and so that I think really was important. And knowing that you don't have to just live within your community, there's a bigger vision and opportunity to think about.
Definitely. And I feel like a lot of, I'm not sure if you're familiar with what they call the METCO program. I know the program is here in Massachusetts, but I'm not really familiar as to what other states the program is in. But the METCO program is a program of which allows students that live in the inner city to attend schools that are in suburban areas and communities right outside of that base city. So Boston, in particular, does have the MECO program, and it allows for students to be bused, taking a school bus out to the suburban schools in order to have that opportunity to obtain the education in a different area, but also have the ability to see what else is out there, which I think is really instrumental, like you said, in terms of having that ability to have that vision or that thought process. You have to have something shown to you, and having that across Philadelphia is an awesome thing. I know here in the city of Boston, of course, we have multiple universities, but I still think that it's somewhat of a foreign situation for a lot of inner city students, simply because the campuses are not necessarily open to those who just are choosing to be in and around them. It's really open towards the students themselves. So what did you feel like was instrumental for you in terms of taking those first steps to begin creating your own perceived reality for the future, in terms of creating that vision for yourself, aside from going to the campuses? What do you feel like you did personally that assisted you there?
Well, I would definitely say my parents. They stress education, and they try to provide me with as many different types of experiences as they could. But I would also say the teachers in the schools that I attended had a lot of passion for ensuring that students went further. I just happened to fall into some schools, elementary school, middle school, where there was some caring about what happened with the students. And in high school, we had a special program called Motivation Program, and they exposed us to different types of things within the city of Philadelphia, as well as cultural kinds of things, which I never would have thought to go to an orchestra or a play. We would read books about Shakespeare and then go see a Shakespearean play. I wouldn't have done that on my own.
Right.
Those kind of exposures just keep to broaden my mind as well. And I think that those experiences, having teachers who understand that the future is in what they invest in each one of their children that they see every day.
Definitely.
I take that approach as well.
No, I think it's very, very important, and you're speaking some amazing truth right now when it comes to teachers. If there's not a passion, and they're not truly attempting to facilitate success as a future prospect or reality for those that they're interacting on a day-to-day basis, not just once in a blue moon or special occasions or assemblies, but on a day-to-day fashion, it can be detrimental to the students themselves. Do you feel like there was a specific teacher or a specific moment that contributed to your success?
I think it was more of a collective, because I had varying types of teachers. I do remember a number of my math teachers. They had passion about math, and they made it interesting. And I do find that a lot of students say today that it's not interesting. They don't see a connection for it. And so a lot of students avoid math. I think they've actually done some research where they've shown that students that have a great aptitude in math do well when they go on to college. That discipline to do the math helps their education overall. So that was, and just the idea that those courses are offered. One of the challenges in Philadelphia is that if you want to take higher level math courses, they're not offered. So you end up having to go to a community college where some parents end up sending their child to a private college just so they can get that additional education.
What did you find to be the most difficult part of starting your publishing company? What did you think was, the biggest hindrance for you in terms of getting that off the ground and beginning to brand yourself out as a book publisher?
That's an excellent question. And the biggest challenge to me was the people that I knew very well, especially from the Philadelphia community, that I thought would adopt my books right away and have me do seminars and engage with me were the most challenging. I had to actually travel outside of Philadelphia to Delaware, New Jersey, New York, and build my reputation out, and then come back and do some things with Philadelphia. And they had some grants that came through. So I thought that was interesting. I thought that immediately these particular schools and administrators and counselors would purchase the books for their students, and it would be a piece of cake to make it happen.
Right.
But that was really my biggest surprise, and how much work it took to get it validated.
Right.
But I didn't give up. I just kept at it and kept pushing forward with the importance of it and helping them to understand that students don't know how to study. We want them to do well in school, but we're not teaching them how to study. We're teaching them to study for a test, but we're not teaching them how to study.
Right.
So,
drilling information is very different than learning how to learn. It's very, very different. So I agree 100%. But I'd actually like to kind of take it back just a little bit, because I think you said something that was rather instrumental, and I think is important for the audience to have the opportunity to kind of hear a little deep dive into. You mentioned that when you started the book publishing company, you were surprised that you kind of had to step out of Philadelphia in order to build up that reputation and your work history and so forth, in order to actually come back to Philly and work with the schools and the administrators that you initially intended and thought would originally adopt the program as it was. And I think that's interesting because it's actually something that I've seen as rather common. It may not necessarily be outside of your state or your city limits, but it definitely is common amongst entrepreneurs to not have the ability to build out the practice with the people that they initially intended to. And it's part of the journey, being able to pivot and kind of go with how it is your product is received by the market as a whole. It may not necessarily be what you're thinking it is at first. So I'm curious, when you realized that those that you were intending to initially target were not actually as receptive, what did you do to help yourself get past that and make the decision to move beyond the Philadelphia area versus doing what I've witnessed some entrepreneurs do, which is kind of give up and decide that it's time to get over it because nobody has shown interest?
For me, I think relationships are really important. So I had a number of relationships outside of Philadelphia, and I maintained those over the years, so it made it easy to approach them and get their support. I think that's so important as you're developing your career and as you're developing your business, that you have a broad reach outside of even your immediate community of people. And so those people were great at reinforcing you're doing the right thing. Don't give up. And hearing those people say it was reinforcing. And then the second part of that was that I continue to participate in meetings and events in Philadelphia to keep myself visible, because I believe that at some point these opportunities would become available. and I wanted to still be at the table when those opportunities became available.
Right. Allowing yourself to have the opportunities in the future and not necessarily getting them or ignoring it. And I think that's also really great that you made sure to keep yourself surrounded by what I like to consider positive peers, making sure that the people around you are those that are going to support and believe in the journey to help you get through that moment. I find that really is something that's instrumental to a lot of entrepreneurs across the board. And when I ask that question, what is it that helped you get through the most difficult piece, it tends to be the people they're surrounded by. So as an audience, I hope you guys are taking note of that big time, that it's really, really, really important to surround yourself with the right people. So Dr. Jones, you are the Associate Dean of Students over at Villanova, and you are also with SAJ Publishing, but I'd love to know, what are some of the projects that you have going on right now? You've recently released a new book, so I'd love for you to tell us a little bit about SAJ Publishing.
Yes, so it's been a number of years that when I've understood the importance of helping students prepare for their additional education beyond their K-12 experience. And one of the things that we used to do, I had a program in one of the colleges that I worked at to help first generation students to get into college. And my goal was to help them be successful. But I consistently found that students didn't know how to study, and that was a big challenge. Whether they had gone to a prestigious school or whether they had gone to a general, public school, but they were facing this challenge of how to study. Just because you can take a test doesn't mean you know how to study. Just the whole idea of learning and the methods and managing your time caused me to initially start writing this book. And one of the things I would say to everyone out there is, whatever you're doing, whether it's writing a book or starting a business, one day at a time. So my philosophy is, if I write one page a day, I'm closer than I was the day before. Mm-hmm. And so as you have goals and plans, you're just taking steps every day toward those goals and plans, and things are happening in the midst of that help you to achieve ultimately the end goal where you want to get to. And so it took me a year to do the first book, but I was persistent. Wherever I had an opportunity, I was going to write this book. When I finished the book and finally had it published, I was able to go, because I had started telling everybody that this book was coming out, and I would go on radio programs and so forth. So I was building up to the release of the book. And then that first book came out, and I started, of course, marketing the book, selling the book, doing public relations. I was on a lot of radio programs. We didn't have as many podcasts as we have today, but as they came along, I started doing podcasting as well. And the funny part is that sometimes I would be on a radio program, let's say I'm here, it's July. Well, I wouldn't hear from someone until November that they were listening to the radio program. So again, just because you don't get an immediate response on what you're doing, you're always planting seeds. Exactly. And you're planting seeds, and you're planting more seeds, and then next thing you know, they blossom and opportunities come out of that. So the first book was for the student, middle school, high school, first year college, on how to study. And then the second book, as I started doing the seminars, the parents wanted me to do a book for them, and that book was around, how do I, as a parent, help my child to be a successful student? Mm-hmm. What are the things that other parents are doing to help their children to be successful students? And I kind of go through how to help your student transition from elementary school to middle school to high school to college, and I have a whole lot of resources for the parents. For a lot of school districts, I've done seminars as a series with their parents throughout the year. Nice. And I can see how that can impact whole families. Mm-hmm. If I can help this one parent who has 3 children or 4 children, now they know what to do with them as they go along. And then my additional book that I have is a scholarship book, and that just tells you how to access all this money to go to send your child to college or trade school. That there is a lot of money out there, and that if you apply consistently, if you have connections with various corporations, there are scholarships, and I have over 100 scholarship websites that are part of the book. But just getting started for a lot of families is the key. And I would tell them, have a night of the week that's your scholarship night. Mm-hmm. And then I give them a lot of other kinds of tips that they can use to do the essays and make sure that they have a winning opportunity when they're applying for the scholarship. They don't give up. So I think that's really important. And all this it's in my website. They can access it through the website, which is www.drstephenjones, DrStephenJones.net. So they can go there to the book tab and actually order the books.
Excellent.
And get ideas. I have videos there. I have other information there as well, educational information there as well.
Wonderful. So we will be sure to link to that through the show notes page. They can go ahead and grab a copy of any of the books that they may be interested. Dr. Jones, if we had a time machine and could go back, say, 10 to 20 years and tell yourself just one thing or give yourself some sort of advice, what do you feel like that would be?
I think the advice would be to make sure I have a consistent plan. Because you can kind of go off of track if you haven't written down your plan. And I think I had different ideas, but I hadn't formalized it into an actual plan. At some point along the line, I did put together a plan, and I've seen the fruit of that, but I would definitely have done it a lot earlier. And they have these business plans that you can write that are really productive in terms of clarifying your vision and where you want to go to. I just knew, for example, I needed to be on the radio, I needed to write articles, I needed to these kinds of things, but systemically, not having a plan, you would just kind of try this and try that and see what happens.
It's funny, a couple of moments ago you were mentioning that you were kind of just taking baby steps in the direction of what it is you wanted to accomplish, regardless as to where the baby steps are going. You were kind of just making sure that you were taking them to get ahead in general. And I think adding in the structure definitely makes a difference. Like no matter how small the baby steps are, you'll get to wherever it is you want to go if you just keep taking them. And I think that is exactly what you were doing, was kind of taking those baby steps and then layering in the structure of where it is those baby steps were going to take you. The show is really designed to help entrepreneurs come up with an idea or to solve a pain in an industry that they may not have really been thinking of, and we would love to help you. If you had a magic wand and could change anything at all in your business, what would it be and why?
The thing that I think I would change is something I'm actually working on right now, which is to have more of a webinar presence. I believe that those kinds of trainings would allow people to just go on. I could be asleep and they watch a video. They get more training and information. That's something that I think if I could wave the wand and make it happen in a big way right now, that would be awesome.
Definitely. The ability to recreate that knowledge and have the ability to reach people despite whether or not you are presently available, the 24/7 automated version of you. That sounds amazing. And I know that you are currently working on creating some of those videos in the background, so we'll keep our eyes open for that and be sure to link to that as well once they're up and ready for your audience. But I believe that you have shared with us the best way to reach you, being drstephenjones.net, which we will again be sure to link to through the show notes page. Dr. Jones, you've been absolutely lovely this morning. Thank you so much.
Thank you, and I sincerely appreciate the opportunity, and I wish everyone out there success.
Dr. Jones, thank you again for joining us this week for episode 70. We truly appreciate you sharing your time and expertise with us. Techie community, if you are looking for a way to give back to your community, a way to help students in your neighborhood increase their academic success and prepare for college success, contact Dr. Jones. As a gift, Dr. Jones is providing you with a free 1-hour consultation to help you and your child map out a plan. Reach out to Dr. Jones at drstephenjones.net. You can always reach him through our show notes page at technology-equality.com/Dr. Stephen Jones. Thank you again for tuning into episode 70, and until our next episode, when we continue to hear the journey, find the pain, and create solutions, enjoy the week.